Hi, I'm Jim Eves, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast, career advice from people in the business. Today, I'm joined by filmmaker, editor, pixel pusher, and owner of boutique video agency The Red, Jake Hawkins. Jake's been working with some of the biggest brands in the UK for the past 10 years on all types of productions, as well as co-directing the micro-budget horror movie Zombie Resurrection. In this chat, I asked Jake for his tips on setting yourself up as a freelancer, how to set your rates, how to be professional, how to deal with clients, and how to find clients in the first place. Enjoy. Jake, thank you for joining me.
Cheers, Jim. Awesome.
You started on I looked you up on LinkedIn, went through, did my research, and it said screen production at Winchester. Is that a posh way of saying film course, is it?
It was a fantastic course. Absolutely loved it. Largely documentary focused. So that kind of shaped the way that I kind of film a lot of the time, because I was very sort of into observational documentary and kind of, hanging back and filming the action as it unfolded kind of thing. So yeah, it was a wicked course. Really, really good course.
Awesome. And when you left that course, how soon after that did you decide to, because I'm assuming you started freelance video editory stuff. How soon did you go into that?
So I started that at uni. So I started cutting together like little corporate promos and stuff like that, referrals from friends and family and stuff. Oh, so and so wants a video and that kind of thing, and then built up a bit of a portfolio. And then I started shooting music videos, and then that was kind of I think that was in my third year. My friend was in a band; they wanted a music video, so we kind of decided that we'd work on this video, throw everything we had at it. It was free, weren't getting paid for it. But we'd throw everything at it as if it was going to be the launch pad to get us onto TV, etc., that kind of thing. So we did that, and that worked, and it got onto MTV, Kerrang, Scuzz, and all that. And then we were then able to say that we're like, broadcast, music video directors, which was kind of cool. And then that pulled in a lot more work as well. So yeah, and I think that was in my third year. So
wow.
Yeah.
So really, the advice there already is, if you're going to do this, you've got to start thinking about it while you're still at uni.
100%, yeah, I would. And uni's one of those kind of times where you can make mistakes, right? Because you're a student, because you're learning, and we make mistakes as we go along, and we make mistakes professionally as well, and that's how we learn from our mistakes. Be honest, take a step back, look at what went right, look at what went wrong, and then learn from it. As long as you do that, then the next job's going to improve, and it's going to improve and improve. So I would say start as soon as you can. Start at college, start at uni. Go out and get those jobs. Build up your portfolio, build up your experience as soon as you can.
So with that in mind, there's this kind of touchy subject of the freebie, doing some freebies. How many of them would you do? Would you do any? Where do you stand on that?
So my kind of advice for that is, and it just purely from kind of where I sort of started, is if you're going to work for free, make sure that you have a plan, right? So don't just take on every project for free just so you can build up your portfolio. Like what I did, I took on a music video for a friend who was, really good, good band. And they were sort of gaining a bit of traction, and they needed a good music video. So we thought this could actually be our launch pad. Let's get this onto TV. So we, roped in favors. I won't say how much we kind of specced up the budget of how much it would actually cost us in hours and work and stuff like that. And it wasn't a cheap video to make, but everyone kind of pulled together, and we got this thing on TV, and we put in, visual effects shots. It was post-apocalyptic. There was a guy crawling out of a bunker. It was, there was smoke, there was explosions, there was a city falling down, there was all kinds of crazy stuff. And, and that kind of put it a little bit above your kind of standard sort of, camera and a band sort of thing. So we just threw everything at it. And that's kind of my advice would be, have a plan. If you're going to do it, make sure it's the best piece of work you can do. Just because it's free, don't then go into it thinking, well, it's a free gig, so I'll only give it, half of my output sort of thing. Go in there and give it 110%, because that free, you're not getting paid, so you've got to get something out of it at the end of it. Make it the best piece of work that you can do, and then use that as a launch pad, and really look at, I wanted to get into music videos, so I did a music video. So look at, if you want to get into maybe like car shows, go and do that freebie for a prestigious car show, or if you want to get into aerial video, go and work on a really, really cool project that needs, drone ops and things like that, and really, throw your time at something that's going to then benefit your career. That's what I would say.
If I was to do that now, my advice as well would be, like you say, to pick an industry that you're actually interested in, because a lot of the time these corporate gigs can be old white men in rooms talking about something really boring. No one wants to do that. You might as well be sat and doing a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So a little bit like you've ended up doing, you did like myself, we ended up doing a lot of marine videography, which is awesome because you're out on the water. It's really exciting. And a friend of mine is into motorsports. He's sort of trying to push that side. It's really making sure the stuff you do is the stuff you're interested in. Unless you love cameras, I guess if you're into equipment and lighting and stuff, then yeah, maybe that's how you get your kicks. But but yeah, that's a good piece of advice. So then day one, I'm assuming website, social media, all that stuff really matters. That's important to set up straight away.
Yeah, 100%. So I would, God, I'm really showing my age now. This is shocking. But when I started, social media was like YouTube, and that was it, really.
Did you have a MySpace page? Is that what you're about to tell me?
Bebo, yeah. That's shocking, isn't it? But yeah, social media was definitely not what it is now. So when I started, I had like, I had the website. Actually, God, I think I had a Google Blogspot website.
Nice.
Back in the day. Yeah, so that was it, really. And so at least people could then go and see, oh, this is him, this is what he does. And then I very quickly got a website which has changed over the years, but it was very much sort of get the website, push people to something that looks professional, and then as your career builds up, you start finding that, for example, I mean, I started as a sole trader, and without getting into all of the technical bits and pieces, but there's a lot of businesses that I then started working in the marine industry that were much bigger players, big brands, and they weren't looking for an individual, they were looking for a company, or they were looking for that that kind of level up from just a guy turning up with a camera, which essentially is still what it was. But it was a guy turning up with drones, cameras, gimbals, all that kind of thing. But it's that security for them that they're working with the company. It's registered. It's so you end up going up and up on the ladder if you want to then work with bigger brands and things like that. Not saying that that is always the case, but I worked with a couple of brands that you had to be a limited company.
Really?
To be a vendor. You couldn't be a sole trader. So yeah, so that was just a natural kind of stepping stone to take my business that way.
Yeah. I can see how, I guess they want that level of security. It seems like more of a real thing, doesn't it? If it's a guy turning up. But then I suppose that also leads into that, what they, professionalism is from someone who hires freelancers, is knowing that someone's reliable, going to turn up on time, going to be polite, and just not be a ball ache. Is a massive one on the list of things I want. Obviously, them being proficient with equipment and knowing what they're doing is important, but all of that other stuff is almost as important as the technical side.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, similar to you, working with a lot of freelancers and hiring and outsourcing when the work is too much for me or my team to take on. You put freelancers on the job, and it's really, really interesting the kind of variation of like price lists and like professionalism that I've seen from different freelancers. And one that really stands out is a guy, lovely guy. I worked with him on a couple of jobs, and then I was like, can you send us your rate card so I can ping it over to other people? He sent me his rate card, and you sort of had the top line of rates, and then 2/3 of this card was basically the like T's and C's of like, if you don't pay me on time, I will add this much. If you want this, it's this much. And then quickly that rate card became like an FU for me. Like, well, this doesn't make me want to hire you. This makes me want to like maybe steer clear, because it sounds like you're more about things that are going to go wrong and catching people out. And it's tricky because that's really important as a freelancer as well, is, you know, making sure you get paid on time, making sure that you know the client knows what they're going to get, and being transparent. But there's a level of that, I think, that comes with when you, it's kind of like going out on a first date, right? You buy some drinks and have a meal. You don't go straight in for the kill immediately when you ask for a rate card. So that was quite an interesting one for me, and it really sticks out, and that was years ago.
Yeah, that's so. There's two interesting things there. I'll pick up on one of them in a moment. But the rate card, that's something that students always ask me about. How much should I charge? How do I price myself? Any advice on that?
Yeah, that's one that because I lecture at Winchester Uni as well, so I deal with a lot of students, and that's a question that I get asked a lot. Is exactly that, and it is a really tricky one. And obviously, when you're starting out, you're not going to charge BBC rates because you don't have the experience. But you know, so I think that kind of needs to be, you know, addressed on a realistic level, right? If you've bought your own equipment and you're paying off your own equipment, you've got to kind of factor that in a little bit. And you know, obviously, you can't go in and work for peanuts, but it's a tricky one. I sort of say, you know, if you look at like a BBC cameraman, or you know, like a seasoned, you know, broadcast camera op, might be, you know, 500-600 a day, you know, wet or dry hire depending, you know, so with or without the kit. You know, you've got to sort of think, well, if that's the kind of top bar, then you know, I have no experience or very little experience, so let's, you know, take that right down to here. And then let's, you know, look at if maybe I'm paying off some equipment that I bought, maybe factor in those payments as a small percentage on top of what you would charge. But I mean, realistically, I don't know, like straight out of uni, maybe, like, it depends on the job, but it's hard to put numbers down. But you know, 150, 200, 250, depending on experience. It's really difficult, isn't it? And also it depends on the kind of client you're working with, I guess, as well, because you know, I've worked with cameramen and cinematographers and DPs for corporate work, and they charge like £1,000 a day to these brands, but they turn up with everything, right? So the company will say, oh, we want a slow motion, you know, really slow motion, like, you know, 120, you know, 200 frames a second, 4K, super beautiful shot of this guy cutting through this log with this tool, and we want the sun behind him, and it's gloomy outside, right? And it's like, we want this, we want that, and then we want this like really smooth gliding shot. And the cinematographer's like, yeah, no worries, because he's got all the gear. So he goes out and he gets his 2K HMI out of the van. He goes and sets up his, you know, his jib arm, and he's got all the kit. And yeah, he was expensive, but he came with everything. And so yeah, it's swings and roundabouts, I guess. It depends on the job.
Yeah, and
that's a really, really roundabout, long answer, isn't it?
Well, that's all right. No, yeah, it is a real minefield, that rate card, because I'm a little tempted to say, to lean into that depends on the customer, because I feel like obviously it really depends on your experience, because you can't come out the gate and go, yeah, it's £1,000. Why not, you know, turn up with DSLR? But you do need to factor in the client and where you are on that journey, and also how much, like you said, if you're in that kind of, you just finished your freebies, you're building up your content for your showreel. Because I guess what I'm looking for when I look at a showreel is variance, is there's a beautiful landscape, there's people talking in a room and there's no echo, there's, you know, some motion, there's cars, there's boats, there's all this kind of thing. I can see they can do everything. And I guess with that stuff, you go down the beach and shoot some landscapes, couldn't you, and chuck them in your showreel. No one needs to know it's not part of the project. Just going back to that sort of client freelancer relationship, and one of the things, I guess, when I've chatted to students, they maybe don't appreciate, is getting paid can be a challenge. And it's not, sometimes you've got a client who just throws you to the bottom pile and you don't get paid in time and it's a pain in the ass. The other times it's just understanding that a bigger business has got an accounts department. It's got the person who's hired you, who's then got to put the invoice to accounts, you've got to approve it, and blah, 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 blah. And this could go on for quite some, or someone might go on holiday, you know, all that kind of stuff. How do you handle that without coming across as a pitchfork wielding, give me my money person?
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's happened to me countless times, right? And I'd be lying if I said it doesn't happen anymore, because it does. And it is part of the course and it is the nature of the job. And it's, yeah, handling it in a professional manner is important, because the client, if you get arsey with them, they're gonna not use you again because you're a pain in the arse, which is fair enough. On the other hand, it's, if you've got your 30-day terms and they go over the 30-day terms, um, you know, the day after, or a couple of days after, it's just a simple email out. And if you use an accounting software like Xero, which is what we use, you can set all this up. You don't have to do anything. It just 2 days after, it just pings them a polite little nudge, just saying, just to let you know, invoice 1074 is overdue. If you can pay this at your earliest convenience, it would be much appreciated. Just polite, just a nudge, because like you say, that invoice happened 30 days ago, and it went to a marketing manager who then checked the email, didn't even probably look at the invoice, and then just went on about their day. And then 30 days later, they're not going to remember oh, I never sent that to the accounts department. Whoops, send it on. So there's no need to get narky. I have had experiences where I've waited 3 months to get paid. That is a pain in the arse. And it's still, it's still polite. It's still just following up on that invoice that is outstanding by 90 days. If you can get onto it, that would be amazing. And I think, in those instances, I mean, I've worked with companies, especially the big marine brands, that they say from the get-go that their terms are 90 days, which is bonkers, right? It's a long time to be waiting for, to be getting paid and stuff. But even in those instances, they've always paid ahead of time. It's generally speaking, and this is not to upset any agencies that might see it, but generally it's agencies that I've worked with.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Like they tend to be like the worst payers, like in large. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. I guess, although I suppose are they in the loop with the client? So they're also waiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
This big kind of circle of waiting to get paid, and the money trickles down, and you happen to be, at the bottom, just waiting. Yeah, trying to catch it. But yeah, it's just be polite. Try and make sure that you have enough work coming in that you don't have to be the guy who's like, give me my money.
I need it.
I need to eat. Like, that's not, if that's the case, you need more clients. But yeah, it is a pain. And sometimes it just happens that you've got 3 or 4 jobs on the go and they all pay late. And that, make sure you've got a buffer in that instance, if you can, or something that's really, really good to get into is retainer work. So if you can get clients who want regular, like, social content, even if you do it at a big discount, you do them nice, social content that they have regular, it looks really good, you deliver it, chop it up, send them the socials, quick and easy, and they just have lots of nice content. You charge, 20-30% less than you would normally, but it's like guaranteed, it's like a salary at that point. It's every, you just bill them every month and they pay it every month, or they set up a standing order. Then if you get 3 or 4 of those, then you're fine. You've got a buffer. And then, you don't have to be the person that's like knocking on doors going, I really need to get paid. Because especially when you're starting out and you don't have that client list, that is tricky. Like, that is is a balance. And I remember, I think I worked part-time for a little bit whilst I was building it up, because I was, this job here, that job there, you need that extra buffer. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, but be polite, be, professional at all times. And yeah, just think, you're going to get more work with these guys, so don't pee them off. If they're paying absolute peanuts and they're paying late, then you need to sack that client off, because no one wants that. That's a lose-lose for everyone. So yeah, be polite, be courteous. If they're crap payers and they don't pay on time, then get another client.
Yeah, good advice. And with the that's interesting what you said about retainer work. Do you suggest that to a client? Do you go, oh, this social stuff I'm doing for you, why don't I do this every month? Or do you wait for them to suggest that? How's that work?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So, excuse me. So if I'm meeting with a client, I obviously find out what they want, and 9 times out of 10, they don't know really what's available. They know what they want, but they've got no idea about the work that you can do with After Effects and still images, for example. So they might have a bank of 1 million photographs that they've paid tens of thousands of pounds for over the course of their, their life that they've used them. And they use them for one campaign, they get put up in the cloud or on an asset bank, and they never get looked at again.
Mhm.
Well, you can come along and say, look, I can take those images, put them into this program called After Effects, and it does this. We can add text. We can basically create you adverts year round, seasonal stuff, all these different promotions that you're running on LinkedIn that's still images. Let me take those. Let me do what's called compositing. We can cut them up. We can turn them into animations. They're much more eye-catching. We can create these for you. We can do, 10 a month or 4 a month or however many you want. And they'll be like, wow, I had no idea. Because of course they, why would they know that you could do that sort of stuff? So a lot of the time it's have that meeting with the client, find out what they want. Generally speaking, it will be a brand video, so a promotional video for something. And then you could say, well, from that shoot, we could create this amount of social content. And by the way, do you have an asset bank? They'll say yes. Or they'll say, yeah, we've got a bunch of hard drives that we never look at. And then you can say, well, why don't you let us take a copy of those? So never take the originals, take the originals and copy them, and then give the originals back. And then build up a content plan where you basically look through the content with them, talk about what images you can use, and build up essentially a content plan for 6 months, 12 months. And the chances are they've never even thought you can do this. So it's about educating the client, find out what they need, and then offer above and beyond that. And then they'll be like blown away and they'll love it. Generally speaking.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And that's a lot more than just turning up to make a brand film, isn't it? That's like that's establishing a long-term relationship.
100%. Yeah.
And
that's really what it's about. I've worked with some clients for getting on 10 years now. And it's just, and then at that point it becomes, hi mate, how's it going? It's that kind of chummy kind of back and forth, and they know how you work and you know how they work, but that's come from years of building up, experience and rapport with them, really. And then knowing the brand, that's what's, I think, takes the kind of work I do beyond just turning up and filming. It's, I get brochures, leaflets, everything. I basically say, look, treat me as your marketing department, off site. Just send me all your stuff. Send me all of your brochures. If you're doing catalogs, send me that. If you're doing product shoots, let me know what you're doing. If you've got still images and asset bank, where's your brand guidelines, so that everything you produce uses their fonts, uses their colors, all that kind of thing. So, and that just puts you above someone that's just like, well, here's this video and I use this text because why not? And I use this style because why not? It's in keeping with their brand. And, if they're hot on it, they'll probably ask you to do that anyway. But if they're not, it might just get missed. And then they end up with a video that doesn't chime in with their brand and doesn't follow that kind of golden thread of their brand. So that's just, again, just taking it up another notch, really.
And thinking about, so that's when you've got this established relationship, very beginning, looking for clients in the first place. Where would you advise to go for that? How do people find their clients?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of focused on the music video stuff. So so I basically produced this music video. We got it onto TV, and then it was like the website that's all it was about, right? It was like, we're broadcast music video directors because we did it once, and that's all it needed. So then the kind of work came in because SEO and the website was pulling in work, and then word of mouth. So we got a lot of jobs through that. So I would say, when you're starting out, think about your kind of niche. Look at what you want to do within that video film production. If something really interests you, maybe it's sports, maybe it's gyms, maybe it's small businesses. Go and meet those small businesses and those people, and just get yourself out there, and then start building up that list. And you might have to do stuff discounted to begin with. I would avoid working for free, because once you get a client that's like, can do this but do it for free, chances are, and again, go back to that, do it once, do it well, that's it. If they want you for free, good luck trying to ever get money out of them as a client moving forward, because they'll just be like, yeah, but you did that one for free, or you did that one for like 50 quid. And it's like, they're just, what they'll do is when you say, oh, this will cost you £1,000 for the shoot and the edit and 5 videos, they'll just turn around and find you, but 6 months earlier.
Yeah.
They'll just get the next one, just say, yeah, can you do this for 50 quid? This is what this guy did. He did it for 50 quid. And they'll be like, yeah, cool, because they need the showreel. And then they'll do it again and again. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Go out and meet people, meet real businesses, real people who are really gonna, pay you, what you're worth, and get out there and build up your client list. But it is tricky. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, it takes a bit of chutzpah to go up to people and just give them your business card and tell them who you are, especially if you haven't done it before.
Yes.
But I would say I've definitely hired people. Like, I would never. It's you've got enough work as it is. You work for a company. Fielding emails from people prospecting is just not something you're interested in. So having that, so even if someone drops a business card off and you look at it, you put it away, you might not hire them for a year, but you might go, oh, that, my usual guy is busy, or this person's not around this time, I'll try this person out. So chatting to people is a great way. And that networking thing, I know everyone's it can be a bit daunting, networking. You can feel like a total fraud, and you're sort of presenting a version of yourself that's maybe not 100% yourself. What do you do? Is there like a Jake Hawkins plus version?
Yeah, mate, you're getting it right now. Did you not know you're being networked? No, it's so I'll be completely honest with you, and this is totally candid, right? When I was at uni, I hated talking, getting up. This is me. This is blah blah blah. I had this social word. I just couldn't do it. I was able to talk and chat and all this kind of stuff, but when I had to actually be kind of serious about something and pitch it, I found it so difficult to be me and do that. And I actually had a discussion with my lecturer at the time, and I asked if for our final year project, if I could pitch it in character and not as me. So I came in, I was doing a mockumentary. So I came in as the character and I pitched my mockumentary film as the character.
Yeah.
And that sounds really weird, but that's how I kind of coped with it. And I kind of put on this character, and I found that a lot easier to do. And that kind of worked for me. And obviously being, professional and you can't go in and act and be a character in front of them, just be like, what the hell are you doing? So for me, networking, what really didn't work for me was the term networking. And it was like a switch that you flicked on, right? That's kind of how we were taught it, and that did not work for me at all, because the only way I could do that was to kind of pretend, and it felt stifled and fake, like it felt like I was pretending. And so for me, the way I sort of tell people, networking, I think it's just be yourself and just be passionate about what you do, right? Because we have got, as filmmakers, cameramen, video producers, we've got like the coolest job in the world, right? And it is cool because, I've hung out of helicopters, like filming boats in the Med. That's pretty awesome. I've flown drones, I chase boats with drones and stuff. You get to go and meet celebs, you get to interview people. It's a cool job, right? So just be passionate about what you do and tell people what you do, right? And tell them with passion and tell them with grit and determination, because no one falls into being a filmmaker. You don't I don't know how I managed to do this, but I've just directed. It's just crazy. Like I just woke up one day and accidentally made a film. So we go out of our way to do this job, and it's cool. It's good fun. It's not your 9 to 5. Just be passionate about it. Tell people.
Do all that. Be passionate, but especially if you're in somewhere like Cannes or if you're networking with other film people, is remember to listen to them and understand where they're coming from, and don't treat that relationship as transactional. Treat it as where two people are excited about something we're talking about. Because I'm sure you've come across people who you've met who are a little bit like those prospecting emails. All they're interested in is what you can do for them and how you can help them progress your dream or get you work or whatever. So it's the best networking I've ever done myself and Laura when we've been in Cannes. It's usually when we've been talking about the weather and how's the festival go. It's just like a relaxed chat, and then things just kind of come out of it, and you start talking about what you're up to. You're not push. You're sort of just being passionate and kind of explaining about something you're excited about. So that's the networking side. Just jumping back to your, so you said Xero is what you use for accounting. I will put a link to that in the description. Just jump into accounting. And I'm assuming because you're using that, you're doing all your own accounts. You're not got an accountant, or do you do that? How do you?
No, I've got an accountant. Yeah,
got an accountant?
Yeah, God, no, I couldn't do my accounts.
Yes.
That's what sends me to sleep. Like, yeah, no.
And how soon did you get that accountant? Was that year one, or were you doing it for a little while when you were trading sole trader?
Yeah, so when I was a sole trader, I was doing my own accounts fairly badly. And then when I became incorporated my business into a limited company, and then took on an accountant after that, so or as part of that, which is great because they know all of the smart things to do and all of the money saving bits and pieces, and and stuff that isn't your usual accounting stuff that you think, oh, travel receipts, expenses, is this an expensible business cost, is other things like like maternity leave, things like backdating VAT, for example. So my company's VAT registered. When you register for VAT, you can claim VAT back on stuff that you bought up to, I think it's like 3 years.
Wowzers, yeah.
So if you buy, for example, like I bought tons of video equipment, and then I became a limited company. My business became a limited company. I VAT registered, and then my accountants were like, right, let's go back over your last 3 years accounts, and it was like it was a large amount.
I bet.
And my missus was like, oh my God, how much do you spend on video kit? And it's like, it's my job. My passion and my hobby, so I'm pretty lucky. But I don't go out and buy golf clubs, I go out and buy lenses. So so that was good. And I would never have thought of that unless I had an accountant. So definitely, I would say it's probably the one of the better things I've done. When you look at it on paper, especially when you're starting out, you think, oh, £1,000 a year, or 1,500 quid a year. It's a lot of money to spend on someone that does something that I could do. Well, yeah, but they are also trained in that specialism, and you're not. So they will find things that will save you money. And I always sort of think, when you look at that amount that you spend, as long as they can sort of recoup you that, throughout the year, then they've earned their money, haven't they, really? And then anything on top of that's a bonus. And it takes all of the admin arsake out of it. So you just let them do all of that.
Yeah.
And you can scan receipts and it's done. You don't have to write stuff down. It's just done.
Done.
Yeah. Done.
So that's okay. That's interesting, and that's brilliant. That VAT thing, I didn't know that. What about legal stuff? Have you got a lawyer? Have you lawyered up, or what do you do with legal stuff?
That's interesting. No, so so I don't have a lawyer per se. Luckily, haven't ever been in a situation where I've needed one. So I mean, I guess if I needed one, I'd then go and lawyer up. But there's media lawyers out there. There's some really good lawyers actually that focus on creative agencies. So they deal with a lot of freelancer contracts and things like that. So and they're really good because they know that kind of specialism, which again, media law and that kind of thing there's a lot of law knocking about. So when they can specialize in a piece of it, that's really good. But luckily not needed one. When we made the film, I think we obviously paid for certain legal elements, like contracts to be, produced and looked over and things like that. Those were one-off fees. Can't remember off the top of my head how much they were. Lawyers aren't cheap, so I certainly don't have one on retainer. Let's say that.
Yeah. So you've moved now into more animation, 3D stuff. You're doing a lot more of that now.
Yeah.
What made you make that move? And also, is it an area that a student could leave uni and move straight into, or is it something that takes years to kind of get up to speed on?
I would say, based on the stuff I've seen from the students at Winchester, 100%. Some of the work that the guys do. So I teach creative post-production and animation, and we look at Cinema 4D and After Effects, and some of the students are just phenomenal. And some of the students who've never used After Effects, and you show them it for the first time, and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then they just they're just sold immediately, and then you spend like the term with them, and by the end of it they're doing stuff and you're just like, brilliant. Like, you generally, if you've done this in a couple of months or 6 months of doing this, you're going to absolutely fly it. And so yeah, I think it is definitely something that they can do once they leave uni. It is quite, it's a learning curve. After Effects, if you've never used it, it's but there's so much, like there's so many resources out there that can teach you what you need to know. And once you start using it and get your head around it, it's just a phenomenal piece of software.
And it's worth learning the basics, even if you're not going to end up doing that as a career, so that you can utilize it on other projects, isn't it? So if you're making videos and stuff, you can just add some nice titles.
Bit flair, yeah. I use it in everything. I genuinely, I say, I can't remember the last time I cut a video without, using a dynamic link to After Effects to do something, be it a lower third or some form of compositing. Maybe a client will come back and say, oh, that screen is the wrong screen in that monitor or that phone, can you change it? And it's like, yeah, of course I can. It's it's going to cost you a bit more, but yes, I can swap that screen out. And it's just having that skill set to be able to do that, and a client be able to say, can you make this happen? And you're like, yes I can, that's fine. Is really, really useful. And again, it's because it's that little bit more specialist than just video editing. The client won't know you can do that generally. They might be like, I had one client be like, oh, we filmed this and we've done the video, and then we realized that the product has changed, and they've changed the color of this button is now red and it was white. And I'm really sorry, but yeah, we'll probably have to just can the video. And I was like, no, I've changed the color of the button, that's fine. And they're like, can you do that? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. We're gonna have to charge you a little bit more, but that's fine. So we then went in and we changed the button, and they were just like, that's incredible. We were going to reshoot it all. So again, that's that going that extra mile. Knowing what you can do with the software helps you, retain clients and keep them happy.
Yes, and that's I know what you mean. People feel like it's almost like magic, isn't it? How have you done that?
Yeah,
dark art.
It can shoot you in the bum as well, because then they're like, oh, we did this and it's all out of focus, but you can fix that, can't you? You're
yeah. There's a button for that.
There's a button. That's it.
And then moving on from that, obviously everyone's AI. There's fear. People are excited about it. Have you used it? How do you feel about it all?
Yeah, so I'm all for it. This video could age really badly, but I think
after the robot war, you're in big trouble.
That's it.
Coming for you.
It was his fault. He was all for it. No, I think in terms of like being a creator, like we're already using the tools, like Roto Brush and things like that. That's already using a form of artificial intelligence to make our lives easier. And I think that the tools are going to get better. They're not going to be perfect. There's not one tool that you can just click and it does your job. Like that's not where it is at the moment, and it won't be hopefully for a long time. But I've used things like this is really annoying. I've completely blanked on the name. Runway, is it?
Runway,
anyway, yeah. So I've used a couple of like AI generation, video generation tools and stuff, and it's really impressive what they can do. But it's not what I want. It's not what I need. So I couldn't come along and be like, oh, I've got this client job, but I can do it on Runway.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to work. But what I found it really useful for is sometimes you have a client say like, oh, we'd love this animation, and they try and explain it, and you're like, I'm not seeing it. Have you got any reference? And they're like, and they can't find anything that's kind of relevant. I might say, can you just go into this Runway, type it in, or I'll type it in and generate a kind of blue sky thinking visual of what you might be trying to replicate. And then you give it to them, they're like, oh yeah, that's really cool. If we can do something similar to that, and you're like, perfect. So a couple of times that's helped out. So I find it quite useful to then be able to send the client, because then they can say, oh, this is the kind of thing we want. But I've had iffy results with it, really. I don't think it's going to like take over our jobs. But I think in terms of the tools, they're going to save us time. They're going to make our jobs easier. They're going to make us be able to do more in less time, which is a win for everyone. But they still need the pilot, right? It's like drones, until they still largely have pilots operating them. Even if they're autonomous, there's still someone overseeing it. So there'll still be that role needed. So yeah, fingers crossed anyway.
So we've talked a lot about the freelance stuff, owning your own company, computer effects. So on to the feature film you made, which I've got down as 2014, but I imagine that's when it was released, was it? 20,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes. So we made it in, God, 2011. It was the most fun, most stressful endeavor I've ever undertaken, and
Mm.
Andy will attest to that as well. It is, yeah, I had, yeah, it was amazing, and I think it shaped me as a person, like the way that I conduct myself, the way that I tackle problems. 100% off of my experience of making a movie, because as
Mm.
you know, it ain't easy, and yeah, there's a lot of hurdles to jump through, and there's a lot of things that need to be done to just get a film into, production, let alone get it shot. So yeah, definitely was a great experience. Yeah.
Mm. So just going back to so you're doing teaching at Winchester. Is there something maybe I'm looking for a quick bite-sized thing here, but what's the thing that they don't teach you at uni? What's the one thing that you wish was on the syllabus that you could say to every student before they leave?
That's really difficult. It's a really tough one. For me, I think it's like etiquette,
Mhm.
like how to, and this comes with experience. So I'll try and make this a short soundbite. Etiquette.
Etiquette. You can't. I want more. Give me more.
I would say, yeah, the way you conduct yourself in terms of, like, client facing, the way that you uh, communicate with, emails, phone calls with people, the way that you conduct yourself as a professional, I think is possibly overlooked simply because, we're showing students the software, we're showing them the tools, we're showing them the equipment, but there's this whole other side which is being a professional in the industry, whatever niche, element of the industry it is that you work in. And I think that that is something that could really help will 100% help students. And whether that's like workshops or like giving examples is probably a really, really good good way of kind of getting that across, of things that work well and things that haven't. And I can give you an example, but that's going off of a soundbite. But yeah, I would say etiquette and
Etiquette.
professionalism.
Professionalism. Okay. Do you have a motto that you live by? Is there a motto for your professional
Um,
life?
Grip it and rip it. No, it's not. It's not. It's not that. Just enjoy the work you do. Right. We have got one of the coolest jobs. Like, and like, just, yeah, enjoy it, because it will fly by, and then you'll be like, now, like, I loved going out and traveling around the world and stuff and filming, but genuinely I'm looking at it now thinking like that part's done, like, and I loved it, I really loved it. And yeah, I would say, like, yeah, enjoy it, grip it and rip it.
Rip it. Thing is, you'd be right, because sometimes it is easy to forget to enjoy it, isn't it? It's easy
It
to get
is.
wrapped up in, I've got to get this shot, got to do this, got to do that, and you forget, bloody hell,
Yes.
look where I
Yeah.
am, what I'm doing. It's amazing.
100%, 100%. So yeah, so I went out and I was filming a fisherman out in the, like, Peak District somewhere, and he was like, he's a like Sky Sports type fisherman. Done loads of TV and stuff. Absolute character, absolute
Mm.
legend. And Glasgow Junior, his name is, top man. He's a Manchester lad, and he was like, I was filming him catching pike, and he was just filming him all day. He got the drone out, filming him, chasing him around. His GoPros on his rod, all sorts of stuff. And we've been filming him all day. And I was out on the boat with him, and he was like, "Mate, do you fish?" I was like, "No, I just film people fishing." And he's like, "Put that camera down, mate. Put that camera down now. You're going to catch a pike." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." Yeah, he's like, "Put that camera down now. Put the camera down. Put it in the bag. Like, you can't just put a camera down on the boat.
Mm.
So I had to, like, make it safe and pack it away." And then we just spent about 45 minutes just fishing. And I caught my first pike and my first ever fish. And there's a picture of me with it. I'm just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And up until that point, I'd be out filming fishermen, and they'd be like, pissing rain, and you're like just filming them, like, "Can we go in now?" And they're like, "Just one more cast." You're like, "It's not one more cast, though, is it? It's never one more cast." And now I get that. I get that, like, reel it in, go again. And I was like, and yeah, that was for me was a brilliant example of like down tools, physically put them down, and just enjoy the moment. And I remember that. And he's a good mate of mine now, and a lot of that is off the back of that fishing, like us just fishing together. So yeah, enjoy it.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the Honest Filmmaker podcast for more career advice from people in the business.